decision in November. But it's an example of how activists felt strongly enough that they went and spent all of their Saturdays out here on the farmers market and collected signatures, and they're going to be trying to raise money to convince voters to put it on. The polling is interesting because people see, they know how much it is, 18, and then they get it free. So that sense of value kind of gets past some of the, some people really hate taxes. But some people who hate taxes actually are saying they'll support this one because this is a bargain for them because they go to parks a lot. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. And if that passed, then obviously state parks would be amping up substantially its programs and doing more hiring. And if it doesn't pass, then we would be in the same situation we are now, which is not hiring very many people at all. So, again, more facts for you all. So that, I have 5 minutes left, and so I'm happy to take any questions. I assume it's still on, right? I just want to make sure I stay within my line.
A couple of weeks ago, Obama convened a meeting at the White House called American Outdoors.
Oh yeah, I got invited, but I had to be at a conference in Australia.
And then well, sounds better.
Yeah.
Hard choice.
And then this week, I think it was this week, that Michelle convened her meeting on health and
obesity, right?
And what's interesting is that for the first time there's an administration, probably since Jimmy Carter, that supports parks and access to parks. And when you look at the rhetoric of both, beyond the rhetoric of both of those, the political stuff, and you look at the content of it, they're basically saying 2 things, I think. I mean, one is that we need more access to nearby nature, which is the first part of what you talked about today.
Right.
And they're also saying we need to support national and state parks and wilderness and access to that. I'm wondering, how is that going to touch on what you do in your agency, and how do you reconcile those 2 issues and the kind of work you're doing, the kind of local, kid being able to walk out of their house and get to open space versus getting in the car with their family and being driven to open space?
Right. We consider ourselves leaders in recreation in California, so our role isn't solely managing 279 destination parks. But a little caveat is we're also starting to buy and build parks in cities. Like I said, we've got 3 new parks in LA. And funny stories, the senator I met with when I was still the lobbyist for parks, I went in with the director and we met the senator who was from Culver City, and he goes, you guys are irrelevant to my district. I don't care about your department, you're irrelevant. And we're like, Kevin, tell us what you really think. It was Senator Kevin Murray, and he's chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, so that's a very powerful member that you don't want to think you're irrelevant. Well, we buy this big piece of real estate in his district, we build this really cool visitor center, and 5 years later, he's asking me to name that visitor center after him. So you can change your relevancy by building and where people live. So that's the first thing we're doing. The second thing is this new search engine we just put out. We have spent some money of our own and partnered with a whole bunch of others, and it's called findrecreation.gov. And if you go on our website, you just find go on our homepage, which is parks.ca.gov. Go down to the bottom of it, it says Find Recreation. And you can type in your home address. And then you can click whether it's 1 mile, 3 miles, 5 miles, 100 miles, and then hit return, and it will pull up absolutely every single park that's within that radius of you, and it will give you either driving directions or mass transit directions to that park. And so it's a really powerful search engine. It also has all the protected land. So if you're interested in landscape planning and you're trying to do any kind of research on where protected lands need to be connected to other protected lands, it actually has that same benefit. It's produced by Green Info Network. And so when we launched it, we actually are launching it with a little YouTube video. It was produced by a friend of ours, Mickey Hart. I don't know if any of you are Deadheads. Mickey was a drummer for the Grateful Dead. His wife's on our park commission. So Mickey produced this little YouTube video for us that's sort of a riff on this is your brain on drugs. It shows this sort of frenetic urban image, and it says, this is your brain. It's like, this frenetic urban picture. This is your brain. And then it changes to a picture of Bernie Falls with the waterfall sounds and lush. This is your brain on parks. And then it has the link. And so it's kind of a fun YouTube. And so I'm trying to use, any kind of creative way we can get the word out. But I do think that our system is in essence, you've got local parks, you've got regional parks, you've got state parks, you've got national parks. They all have a role to play for people in different elements in their lives. Our parks are places where usually they can be maybe an hour to 2 hours away. National parks are often 4 hours away. But we find, 2 hours drive and then you spend the whole weekend with your family, it's really not that far. The harder thing is getting people to commit a whole Saturday. One of the biggest barriers for Latino families is the dad's concern that if I take my family to this park, what if they have a bad time? And they all hate me. This is a guy from Coleman who owns Coleman Company was telling us. He said, that is the biggest barrier we have with emerging populations is what if they don't have a good experience? And so, so that's sort of the challenge for all of us is to make sure we have places that work. Michelle Obama's initiative, while great, actually did not mention nature much, so we're hoping that she's going to tweak it, because it just talked about exercise and kids getting PE. And we're like, yeah, but you know what? Kidding kids in nature where they just walk and play freely, in a lot of ways that's more fun. The nice thing about being out in a park is you go for a nice walk and you don't realize you're exercising. It's like when I go to the gym, that's like medicine. I'm paying a lot of money to walk upstairs, and I probably could walk up for free if I went to some of our parks. But so it's a little bit goofer. You go, I pay money to go inside to run on a, one of those revolving sidewalks, and it's kind of goofy. I mean, I will actually feel better if I walked along the arboretum. I will physically and mentally feel better if I walk on the arboretum than if I go to the Capitol Athletic Club where I'm a member. So
the stuff that I saw on the, I think it was the White House website from Michelle's thing this week has parks in it.
Yeah, because the National Parks Director got to her.
It's in there, and it's
Yeah,
basically the same thing that was from American Outdoors. So
they're starting to,
woven those things together in a way that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so we're optimistic. I mean, we feel like what we have is the solution to whatever ails you. We got a health problem, parks is your solution. You got an economic problem, we're your solution. We're your economic engine. We generate bazillions of dollars. So, we're desperately trying to maintain our relevance so that we're not eliminating the budgets. But I will tell you, the trend of park closures is very frightening. New York State is closing a bunch of parks. Arizona has eliminated their state park system. Utah's closing parks. Georgia's closing parks. And within California, cities and counties are closing parks all over the place. So it's a very dangerous trend that our places where people go are being eliminated. So y'all have to stay very vigilant and very active, because if you don't, they're going to pave them, put power lines through them, close them. Each generation has to fight the parks battle. So I'm a little off the one side.